Hello, and welcome to the Polemic Pool. This is Jerry Bose, and I have my fellow polemicists here, Laura Castelletto, Steve Anderson, and Jeffrey Saint. And today's topic is science is the method of understanding in the modern world. So that's what we're going to discuss, and I could start off our conversation by, citing a statistic. I know Laura loves statistics, and that 1 out of 4 people have been currently polled, and it's been discovered that 1 out of 4 people believe that the sun revolves around the earth. So I'm thinking that science is not as a powerful enough presence in modern society. It's not something that has really engaged the general populace as a practical method of facing life in the modern world.
Jerry, where's this poll statistic you're citing? Who conducted the research?
Oh, I
What's
forget.
The group?
It's just really I think it was a Pew.
Because I can easily accept 1 in 4 people who self-identify as Christians say the sun goes around the earth. I have a really hard time. Steve, Laura, do you think our population at large, we're talking about the United States, right?
We're talking about the United States.
Do you think our population at large would have a 25% group representation that believes the sun goes around the earth?
I think Jerry's making a broader point that people are scientifically ignorant.
Exactly.
And I believe that is correct.
That is correct.
You
Nobody
think
would
1
argue
in
with
4?
that. Oh, yeah, I think that's probably about right.
It's shocking. It's meant to be shocking.
I'm
every
really,
poll.
It's absurd, actually.
Yeah,
It is absurd at a certain level.
You just took a lot of my hope away.
Yeah, well...
You're smarter than most people, Jeff. Have hope in yourself.
Yes. But...
it's the nicest thing Laura's ever said to me.
As much as it is alarming to hear that, and I wish we were a little more educated when it came to science in general. But I think that we have to be careful that science isn't the end-all, be-all. And we also have to accept the fact that we are animals, and as animals, looking at everything scientifically is not always gives the best results. And
okay, Steve, but what? Correct. I'm metaphorically between you and Jerry. I'm also physically between you and Jerry as we're seated around, and I'm hearing Jerry talk about science in a fairly particular context. I'm hearing you talk about life and being an animal in a very different concept that science might not be addressing. So I think you're talking about a couple of different things, or you're talking about one thing a couple of different ways.
No, I think we're talking about the same thing. I'm just trying to make a cautionary note here. The argument or the statement Jerry made was, my gosh, 1 out of 4 people believe that the sun revolves around the earth. Okay, that's
right.
That's a scary
There's a context
situation.
in that.
Therefore, what? Therefore, there's going to be, and probably always will be, unfortunately, a group of people that just does not or is not attracted to science.
I call them the United States Congress.
Well, okay.
Sure,
but we shouldn't make that quantum leap then to say that all of our decisions, or most of our decisions, should be based solely on analytical, scientific methodology.
And Steve, on that point at large, I agree with you. Laura, I'm sure you agree with Steve on that point as well. In fact, Jerry, you probably aren't too far removed from that. But if we go back to the idea that 1 in 4 people don't believe 1 in 4 don't believe the Earth goes around the sun,
right.
They're looking at something other than science to explain how the sun appears to come up in the morning and set in the evening. I think the only way we're going to reconcile ourselves to some of the phenomena is through scientific methodology where it's appropriate, and I think that's an area where it's appropriate. I think you're talking about areas of life that are endeavors that may not need such a degree of evidential data.
But what's more important, Jeffrey, the fact that I think the sun revolves around the earth, which really is going to have no effect on society.
Or your life.
Or your life, in that matter.
Yeah.
Or base all your relations, conversations, how you feel about things strictly from a scientific standpoint. I think that's much more dangerous.
Well, here's an asset, I think, to having a scientific approach.
Okay.
I think having a scientific approach means that you're a skeptic. It means that you need evidence in order to support a decision. Now, I don't think there's quite enough of that in our modern world, in that we have a lot of fallacious arguments that are bandied about and outright lies that people accept because without evidence, and people need to be more skeptical. They need to bring that sort of need to define and refine issues.
But Jerry, I'm going to play a little Steve Anderson here and a little Laura Castelletto, if you guys don't mind.
He hasn't been allowed to
coming back
say
in.
anything.
How about Laura Castelletto play a little correlation?
But hang
Wait
on a
a
second
minute.
here. Laura
I'm
can
not
play,
Jack Castelletto.
Laura can play a little bit of me if she wants to. But here's my point.
Okay.
Some of these people that subscribe to a 6,000-year-old Earth as accounted for by the number of generations since Genesis, if you take it literally as Ken Ham does, and let's just be honest, that's who we're talking about, and his population of believers, but some of them would consider themselves to be incredibly skeptical of anything and everyone that has a different idea than themselves.
Not speaking of religion at all.
I need a polemic buzzer that I can just go bzzzt and then shoot off a polemic.
Well,
I want more deep-end polemic pool.
What do you want to make? What's your point?
Got a couple.
Dive in.
First of all, I have heard enough people just clutch their hands together and wring their hands and say, "Oh, people are ignorant. It's a terrible shame, and I'm shocked by the latest statistic and outrage." Who cares? If Steve doesn't know what's revolving around what, and he is an elevator repairman, and he repairs elevators well, bless him. Good enough.
Agreed.
Okay.
Who cares?
So, the problem isn't that we don't all know the same pile of stuff. We don't need to know all the same pile of stuff. Okay, let me go on for just a moment. A couple things I want to hit on here. We humans with our hands, okay, little story. I went through a log cabin, and it was all set up as if it was 1800 or something. And they had all the toys of the children and the things the adults did at night when the sun went down and they're sitting in their crummy log cabin. And I was struck by how much they used their hands, just like we are with our phones and our tablets and our video games. And they were doing the same thing with their little objects. We use our hands all the time, and we got technology because of it's just our drive to use our hands, okay? And we have this technology. We love our technology. Everybody, even people who don't, still do. You still love little buttons that you push and things happen, right? Okay, but that's the science. But
that's the science?
That's how it's expressed in our culture. But as Steve is saying, okay, this is how I'm dividing it mentally is there's technology and there's biology. And,
exactly.
And I know a lot of engineers, and I really like them. Like a group of people, I really like the way they think. It's clean, problem solving. But however, they're not happy people because a lot of them miss the biology. And I'm from the biology point of view, I believe.
Yes,
I'm gonna put myself in that camp where I like technology, but without the biology, the technology is sterile.
So but look, where the hell would biology be if it wasn't for the embrace by biologists of the technology that you eschew?
I totally get that, but I'm saying without the biology, you have lifelessness. But when life is added, that's a different, added dimension. It's smells, it's memories, colors, emotions. all of these.
Jerry didn't
Well,
argue
no,
against that.
I'm not against all that.
No.
I just think that passions overrun logic on far too many occasions. Just
And
look
it's
at all
often
the
good.
war that we
No,
have.
it hasn't all been good.
No,
Often, not all been.
No, no.
Often.
Often. It
Good. Which I overran your statement on purpose.
Well, you certainly did. Well, just
So we should be more dispassionate? Is that what you're arguing?
No.
So
I'm not
it-
arguing that. Are you arguing that, Jerry?
no, not actually.
I didn't hear that come up. at
Well,
all.
well, actually, yes.
Yes,
Yes, I
you
am.
did.
I
You
am.
did.
I correct myself there. I am arguing us for being
It's a deep point.
in a general level. Sure, there's definitely a place for love and moral expressions, but we don't, certainly as a means to govern ourselves and govern our country, we're not analytical enough.
Can I say one more thing? I don't want to. Well, there's 4 of us, and it's a lot. But I'm finding that everybody likes to call people the sociopath lately, and and they're just bombing that on people. And it's people who are thinking logically and analytically, even though they may be good people, loving people.
And they pass themselves off as human
Where they're
when they're
accused-
not quite.
And I've been called that myself. I'm a caring person, but if I calculate things, then I'm cold. So, where do you go with that?
Okay, we have a couple of different arguments going on contemporaneously here.
Well,
I think there's
yes.
obviously, Jerry, there's a place where the cut and dried scientific methodology is really the only means of actually understanding certain physical phenomena. Okay, there may be multiple explanations for what appears to be a sunrise and a sunset, and in fact, that we even use the term sunrise and sunset is
In
antiquated.
itself,
In
it is.
itself,
It's terribly
it's
antiquated,
contrary to science.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. However, I think there are also places and arenas in life at large where science certainly could be involved, but doesn't need to be involved. And one could, even though should and shouldn'ts are really soft, fuzzy logic ideas, probably shouldn't be involved as much as it may be. And Steve's point about how 2 people can overanalyze each other to the point of paralysis and not getting anything done,
Yes.
Well, that
where
too.
otherwise they might get a whole lot done and enjoying their lives together and live happily ever after. If you really think about what that means, you're probably going to draw the conclusion that, well, we should probably never even start because we're doomed. We're not alike enough. We're not compatible enough now. We'll never be.
Being over analytical can be dysfunctional.
It's analysis
Yes, it can be.
paralysis,
Yes.
as Laura said.
Dysfunctional.
Analysis
Engineers
paralysis.
are really good at looking at things through their lens, that perspective. But they're not so good when you take that lens away and put them in a different environment where the lens just doesn't have a place.
So that's really my point. And I hope you didn't misinterpret my statement by saying that we should poo-poo science, because we need science. All I'm suggesting is science is not an end-all, be-all, and there are places for science and analytical thought, and there's places for the animal in us.
Do you agree with that, Jerry?
Well, I really don't have a problem with that, but I just see a lot of animalistic expression in our modern world through violence and through flimflammery, be it political or social.
Well, that's the
That-
negative. How about the love and the nurturing and the caring? And how about that part?
Well,
so for
yeah,
every
yes,
negative you can mention about the emotions that humans have, I can counter it with a positive.
Okay, how about we put some context to this?
Okay.
We're talking science, and Jerry, do you use the term science universally?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
you-
yeah. I haven't defined it quite so much.
Yeah.
I think of it more as a scientific method of having evidence and support for one's position and argument. I really do like to grasp a hold of the idea of science as the skeptic, that you must be able to prove your argument. You must base your statements and the extension of knowledge upon evidence.
Okay, so and Steve's talking about being an animal and expressing ourselves for what we are. aside from science. Two people. You marry people, correct, Steve?
Yes, I do.
You officiate and you
I
sign marriage
officiate
license. So,
several.
do you think that two people should sit down and analyze their relationship through the scientific methodology to see if they're compatible, or do you think it's enough that they say, I have these feelings, I don't necessarily know why I have them, I just have them, and if you want to tell me why on paper, more power to you, but you know what, between you and we don't care. We just know we have them, we want to get married or not, we want to be partners for life.
Not only that, but I don't care whether the sun revolves around the earth or not. I love this person. It has nothing to do with anything.
So do you think science should come into that equation? Do you think Steve should put on his science hat and say, well, now, one of you believes the sun goes around the earth, the other one believes it goes around the other direction, and you shouldn't be together? Or do you think he should just accept the fact that they say, you know what, we love each other and we'd like to have a public commitment to each other that binds us together legally in a social contract?
Now, this is a curious development of the conversation that I was not really quite expecting.
I know.
Yeah, and and I think it's great to be challenged.
Yes.
I'm all supportive of the various, almost ineffable qualities of being human, and I think they should be explored and indulged.
Absolutely.
And I think it makes for a grand life to be able to do so.
Nice.
Now,
Cool.
I also think that part of living is also being practical and analytical, because it puts you in a position to be able to better express, better to be able to support your family, to succeed, to do any number of things.
Right. And I agree with you, but I thought that your proposition for tonight was, unless I misunderstood what it was, that science has become or should be the major criteria or the most important criteria or the best method for our civilization. Did I overstate what
All right.
you were...
I'll jump to my conclusion. I think we need a balance. I don't think we're at a balance point in our society yet, because I think the way we govern ourselves, as I see through our governmental process, without getting too political, is that we do not engage enough in the analytical discussion and argumentation to handle some of the major problems.
But you're
today.
not talking on an individual level.
No, I'm
are
not
you?
really.
Okay, Jerry.
I'm talking more societal.
Would you prefer computers run our government?
Not at all. But I would like to see the people who run our government know something about science before they make decisions which will get us into lots of trouble.
I would vote for a computer over either president we just had choices of last time.
Why?
I think a computer that was sourcing much data would make better decisions.
So you want to take the human equation out of decision making, and you want to give the decision making to a non-feeling mechanical computer that makes the decision for us. Is that
Steve,
what
I did
you're-
not jump ship on you.
You
I-
did. You
Well, it
contradicted.
sounded like it to me.
Laura's the one who said about 9 minutes ago, engineers do their thing in engineering really well, but outside of that, they just get so confused. And so,
Right.
Are you suggesting that we should have that digital perspective?
I'm surprised
our
at you
governance?
boys that don't want to take your defense of logic and science to where I think you should go. You should
Where should
trust
we go with it,
computers.
then? Oh, I don't want to live in a computer age. We have enough. There's this new
she's
thing.
tongue-in-cheeking you.
Oh,
to
yes.
that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you
she's
remember.
trying to get a reaction out of it, and,
Yeah.
and she's
What
being.
pool
I'm
is this?
all
Are we in a
over
wading
provocative.
pool? Splish, splish.
So here's the thing. We have this. We talked about B2B, business to business. We talked about B2C, business to consumer. Well, now we're talking M2M, which is machine to machine code to machine code. It's a ton of data. How much data is there out there? Your car is already making decisions for you when you buy a Ford Escape, as they have it on the commercial, and you can let go. And it wasn't the first one to do this, by the way, and it may not be the best one at it. let go of the steering wheel, take your feet off the pedals, and it will parallel park itself. It's going to back up,
Yes.
the wheels are going to turn, it's going to go forward, and it won't hit the vehicle behind, the vehicle in front, or anything around it. We talk about the driverless car. By the time the damn driverless car gets here, we'll barely notice because we're so used to being hands-off and letting technology and computers run our lives.
That's true.
Sometimes we screw things up through the human condition.
Yes.
However, we're all humans, and governance is primarily of, by, and for the humans on this planet as we know it. I'm not at all comfortable with the idea that we're going to have all of this machine code fed into another machine and some program. There is one called Splunk, and the reason it's called that is because spelunking is caving, and this thing goes into these caverns of data. And what it does is it produces really nifty little graphics for you so that you can understand it. You want a president to be replaced by something that just processes all this data, makes a decision as to whether we're going to
No.
That or
attack
Bush?
Syria?
Who do you want? The computer or George
she
Bush?
was mocking your point of view.
I didn't express a point of view on that up to that point.
Well, then you're just kind of going
Get out
with
of
the
the
wind.
pool.
No. I
Get
had
out
not
of the
said.
pool. Dry
I hadn't
off.
said that.
Get a
Well,
towel.
I got to tell you, this is some of
Watch
the
us have
driest.
fun.
This is the driest water I've ever been in.
Well,
I mean,
well, here's the thing. If we don't have representatives in our government who understand technology and science and analytical thought and skepticism, then we're going to have the scientific and technological aspects of our governance taken away from us by experts who will run it for us.
And conversely, if we have people in Congress that don't realize that families have to make a living wage and to bring up children, to rear children, and to give them the proper education, and all of the non-scientific things to make a society healthy, then
Well, that's
no.
That's well said, Steve. That's well said. But I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't either. Jerry, okay. I want to ask you a question. I'm doing more questioning than I am answering for a reason here. Because
know the
both
answer.
sides.
It's a pattern.
There are no
Pattern is
answers.
the key word.
However, what would you have supplant science? You're espousing the scientific perspective. Play devil's advocate. We have a Congress that doesn't understand, and even worse, doesn't care for the idea of science. What replaces it as a means of steering their governance?
A methodology, if you
Yeah.
will.
What would it be? What would be in place of science?
Sharia law.
Okay, well, listen. You laugh,
Religious
Laura,
law.
but that is the law in countries that we're engaged in right now, where we're occupying, and there's not much science in Sharia law.
I want a sharp point to come back on this conversation.
Do it.
And
Go
I
ahead.
feel that we can find it. And it is sort of a center point. It's in the center of these two things because they don't, like Steve tried to say that they're two separate things and kind of divide them. And I don't believe you can. Biology is a science. Animals follow laws of nature. However, you got the right word, Jerry, when you said patterns. If you observe, it doesn't matter how educated you are or something, you look at your life and your world and you find patterns in it and you learn from the patterns, and that is how you make your decisions. And when you break the pattern of your past, you get a different result. Is this not correct? Even a very stupid person that understands that can improve their life.
Well, it's possible, Laura. You said if you break the pattern, you get a different result.
Difficult.
Maybe you do.
Big if.
Maybe you don't.
Big if.
Maybe you get a better result. Maybe you get a worse result. Maybe you get the same result because there are perhaps several patterns of behavior that lead to the same result. However, I find it very curious that you just made that point because you said in essence you have to analyze, or you didn't say you have to. You said you analyze these patterns. That's playing right into what Jerry is saying.
I know that, but
More
I'm trying to make a
people
point.
need to understand the patterns and analyze them to come to more reasonable conclusions.
Animals do the same thing. Animals
That's
look
her
for
point.
They do.
patterns. Animals are employing a scientific method
They
as
are.
well. And
At
some
levels
of
that
them are
they don't
not
even
even
are-
have brains. A jellyfish is doing this as well. He doesn't even
Yes.
have a brain.
Pattern recognition is the main thing that sets human intelligence apart from other
Right. Okay.
species.
So here's my problem with too much of the sort of technological mindset that we think is science, but is only a little piece of it, is that you think, you said it yourself, Jerry, that you have a proposition, you look for evidence for and against. The problem is when we format those propositions or we make our theories and we are limited by our current understanding, and we might miss a much bigger picture, and that's what Steve's trying to say too, is that you have taken out a lot of possibilities and then you get a result based on what you thought, but you might have completely missed it. And let me expand for a moment.
Garbage
I hate to
in,
take
garbage out.
I hate to take all of the little bit of time, but we think we understand, for instance, city engineering, or how we control water as it runs over from storms, and how we do cities. We don't understand. We're just figuring out that we didn't understand. We didn't understand how rainwater was absorbed, and that if we built dams and shored up rivers, we'd cause flooding.
Oh, no, we understood it.
There's a million examples.
The money behind that, and I'm gonna, I absolutely want to
Our
say
food
this.
system
Let
is
me,
the same.
I want to say this with some intention, Laura. I want to correct that statement. It was understood. People were not surprised. They didn't give a damn because they had moneyed interests
Was that a
up front of
pun?
it.
I know, you can give a damn.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. The
Thank
way
you for
that
picking up on that.
agriculture...
So it's not that they didn't understand; it's that they didn't care. Because
Well,
they
that's
got
why
theirs.
we need the
think so.
skeptical attitude that science brings to analyze that and point that kind of stuff out before we're taken advantage of by vested interests who seek to rule us by our lack of understanding of complex problems.
Okay, and here's my problem with that, and I have a problem with everything, sorry, is that
We've noticed, believe me.
I've, as Steve pointed out, and I say I'm an agnostic about many things, and he's just laughs, nods, and says, yes, Gnosticism, it means knowledge. He doesn't know anything. I'm agnostic. I don't know anything. It's true. It's a funny joke when I say I'm
talk
agnostic.
about that. You know what's really interesting is there's in the consulting world.
Nobody got it but
We
Steve
talk
ever.
about
It's the only one
being-
that ever understood.
We talk about being technologically agnostic, and what that means is we don't care what software solution you choose. It could be IBM, it could be Oracle, it could be Microsoft,
As long as
for
it works.
example.
Yep.
We will implement it for you. And that's the term agnostic is working its way into a fairly common vernacular
Yes, it
in
is.
our society, beyond the religious connotations.
That's where I am with it.
Yeah.
Of course.
And you know, you talked earlier about how it's fashionable now. People just refer to each other as sociopaths. Well, how about agnostic sociopaths?
Uh-huh.
I just thought I'd
Please
throw
help
that out
me.
there because we've got about 2 minutes and 9 seconds left, and it's been a really lively conversation.
Oh, yeah, I've enjoyed
So,
it.
Jerry, in a minute, can you sum up your part of it? And then, Laura, I think you've got the next topic, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so
I appreciated what Laura and Steve have brought to the conversation today about the human side of the equation. But I just don't think that we've developed adequately enough throughout our society a strong enough skeptical and evidential reasoning on part of the public in addressing the very complex problems that we have, especially in the governmental circles.
We don't.
So, you know, we can go on for this for a long time. I'd just be repeating myself. But I enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
And Laura gets to pick our next topic. So what are we going to be doing next time round, Laura?
Yeah, Laura.
Oh, there's several things I want to talk about, but I'm gonna go with quantum mechanics, and I want to dream about it. I want to speculate about quantum mechanics.
In what way?
Bring
Philosophical?
Yes. Bring me your wildest quantum mechanic speculations. It's an exciting and amazing topic, and
Yes.
we've talked about patterns. We've talked about agnosticism
Yes.
today, and quantum mechanics suggests whole new patterns superimposed above and beyond and through all the patterns that we can now see. It's crazy. It takes religion and gives it some more power than it had, and at the same time less power.
That's
It's-
exactly
it'll
right.
be, I think it'll be very interesting. I look forward to
I
it.
look
It
forward
has
to
parallels
too.
to Buddhism. It has implications for our day-to-day lives. It's just the most exciting thing. You guys have great minds, and they're all wandering off in different directions at all times. Let's bring it together.
Great.
I
So
wouldn't
then
count on that,
we
but-
got another time when we're going to get together and talk in a polemic sense about quantum mechanics and the value it brings to the world and our understanding of each other, ourselves, and everyone else.
Here,
right?
here.
Here, here.
All right. Thanks for listening
Thanks,
to the polemic
guys.
pool.
All
Indeed.
right,
Take
take
care.
care.